this is our April QualiWare User Group meeting. As I said again, my name is Ryan. I'm the Marketing and Sales Support student here at CloseReach. So for our agenda, first, Kevin will be going over our CloseReach news for the month. Then after that, we have our special guest here, Kuno Broderson, the CEO of QualiWare, who will be talking about the new QualiWare 10.10 release. So I will give it off to Kevin for our CloseReach news.
Great, thanks, Ryan. So welcome everybody. Wanted to let everybody know we've got a new customer making use of some of CloseReach's services, Intact Insurance. Came to our Ottawa office here and took part in some training that we ran in the business architecture space. From a QualiWare perspective, we've got, as Ryan mentioned, we've got Kuno here today. So welcome, Kuno. He's got his tea beside him, so he's all primed to go as he shows us everything about 10.10 and answers any questions you have. And probably one of them will be, so when do we get a copy? But I'll leave that for him for later. Just to let you know that we mentioned last time we have been making a lot of changes to our site. If you haven't gone to the QualiWare site lately, you actually should. There's a lot of interesting content on it and additional information about new capabilities in the tool and how other people are using QualiWare. So we actually adopted some of the things that QualiWare was doing there and adapted it to our site. So, for those that we're meeting with, talking about engagement with their business and user community, both sites might be useful in terms of looking at the messaging and how you might use that internally in your organization. So, great. We've got some training updates. We're running another Roger Burleton course in September in Halifax. So that'll be running right down at Purdy's Wharf at the KPMG offices like we did last time. And I think we've got a few people on the meeting maybe today that came to that course. So, if you've got any good things to say about it, you can drop that in the chat to say what you thought about Roger's course for anybody who's contemplating it. So just to let you know. We've updated our training calendar, so we've got the full slate of courses posted out for the next 3 to 4 months, including QualiWare Command Language and CaseMaker courses that we're running for people that have requested them. So, and we have a new training and coaching program in development with Roger Burleton that'll be up on our site shortly. So, Roger was here running his business architecture course, connecting the dots. This really is taking it to the next level. Now we want to implement things and, hey, we need this kind of coach, on a, weekly or monthly or ongoing kind of basis, to help us get through some of the transformation and, helping to realize some of the things that maybe somebody learned in the course here. So watch for that showing up, and there'll be some announcements coming out through our email and blogs. So it's great. Want to introduce a couple of new CloseReach team members. We have Brenda Cowie, who's on the call today with us. Brenda has joined us in our sales function, and Brenda has extensive experience in the EA market with a variety of different tools. So very familiar with Orbis and BizDesign and Value Blue, and she's now working with us in the QualiWare space. So helping us grow our private sector as well as our public sector business. So welcome aboard, Brenda. And we have Nathan Montpremier, who's joining us in a couple of days, who will be working in our customer success team. So following in the footsteps of Ram and Sky and others before them. So and we'll welcome Nathan on board in a couple of days, May 1st. We have QualiWare Architect and Collaboration licenses available that the government has purchased, but have outstanding maintenance and support on it. And there's until May 31st to take advantage of that. After that, those licenses go away and are not retrievable. So it's an 80% discount off buying something brand new. So with the election over, some funding should be coming available. And maybe before the inevitable restructuring happens, if you have some funding available, there are licenses that can be acquired quickly through the current GCE association contract. And talking about that contract ends May 31st. So again, with the election ending, if you have funding right now, putting together a task authorization can happen in a couple of days, and we have some resources available. So you can reach out to Tamara or myself directly, and we can help you push a short task authorization through to get some work done quickly under that contracting vehicle. Beyond that, we're working with all of the departments on the next stage of consulting services. So we'll be using pro services and TBIPs, SBIPs, our cloud SaaS supply arrangement also has a services component to that. So again, when Cecile's back, she's in the in Barbados right now. I'm jealous. And or in the interim, Tamara and I can help you as well. So back to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kevin, for the CloseReach news. Now I will hand it off to Kuno, CEO of QualiWare, to talk about the QualiWare 10.10 release.
Let's talk a little bit about where we are right now as a business. Right now, we're quite happy with Gartner. They placed us in the leaders quadrant, and that's something that we have. Typically, over the many years we have been in the leaders quadrant or maybe in the visionaries. We move around a little bit depending on who they put at the end of the magic quadrant. Of course, we're not the size of some of the other companies, but we're happy with the position that we have, and we're especially happy with the comments that Gartner gives us. So they share their opinion in textual form as well. They say advanced ontology and knowledge management. Under that heading, they have QualiWare's ontological foundation, i.e. fundamental classification of relationship of concepts or things that exists or are important. So that's basically their interpretation of an ontology model. And they say that has shaped its product architecture, enabling it to provide advanced support for controlling how knowledge is shared across federated architectures. And that's absolutely true. We have for some years now used ontologies to control the sharing of knowledge, the structuring of knowledge that we share, and also it is the foundation for our integration with AI services in general. We have extensive support for industry verticals and sustainability. That's true, and there is a consistent growth in innovation, which is a nice thing that they look at that. QualiWare X is a functionality-rich product that has continued to demonstrate QualiWare's progress on the completeness of vision axis. That is the horizontal axis in the magic quadrant. So thank you, Gartner, for that. But we're also being assessed by other analysts. So in Infotech, which I think is actually of Canadian origin, we are named as champion. We're up here. Of course, it's very confusing that they've chosen to turn the magic quadrant 45 degrees, but I think you can live with that and still understand what it's all about. It's about being close to the top, and I think we're pretty good represented here. But more importantly, the Infotech quadrant is based entirely on feedback provided by clients, whereas the Gartner Magic Quadrant is primarily based on a set of videos and the questions that we answer. So of course, there's also client feedback involved in that, but Infotech is a little different here. We're treated quite well by them. So ease of use, ease of customization, 84% happy, where average of the rest is 78. Ease of data integration, we're a little bit above average there as well. Process architecture, quite a lot above average. Collaboration, quite a lot above average. And also security, unique features, productivity enabling and enhancing performance. We're quite highly scored by Infotech. The latest on that axis, I don't know if I get some problems with this. So because I don't know if it's out yet. Actually, the Spark Matrix for digital twin of an organization this year should be out now in Q2 2025. Places us up here in the Spark leaders, and as you can see, this little arrow there, it means ACE performer. We're very proud of this, and different type of analysts will rate us in different ways, but also for the Spark Matrix, it is inspired by product feedback. So how do we, let's come back to the more sort of the content that is important for this particular demo. So how do we normally plan and design our product? And I wanted to just give you a little bit of a feeling of what is it that we do in QualiWare when we plan for a new release. And we have this internal repository called the Product Strategy Planning. It has two different sections in it. It has the planning and design and architecture of our core development team. So we use Archimate for some of the areas that we work with, and this is the new design for our collaboration server that comes out in 11. We can drill into lower level areas. So, for example, let's look at the meta model handling. It's how we handle meta models, and there will be, somewhere in here there is a format, maybe a class diagram or something like that to define, the standard meta model, the dynamic meta model, extension meta model services, and things like that. So we have quite a sort of advanced, if you would, way to document and plan our core architecture in the tool. Now, if we look at the solution architecture, and this is where I wanted to focus a little bit now. As you can see, we have requirement models, we have strategic roadmaps, we have frameworks that we have designed to make sure that we follow the right path and get the right ideas implemented. But also we are using Edgy to design and analyze some of the journeys, customer journeys, and the top tasks required. So if we look at the EA top tasks, for example, here is the journey. There is a journey here for managed application portfolio, and below here we have the top tasks that we have defined. So the important tasks, if you're managing an APM, establish an overview of the current situation. You create and maintain application catalog, establish an application context and ownership. And then there is evaluate the application portfolio. So the performance, redundancy, risks and opportunities, digitalization level, and the portfolio coherency. And then there may be other tasks that are performed by typical APM owners. So prioritize the scope and APM change, reallocate or allocate resources and budget, communicate and collaborate the strategy, and create and monitor the APM plan. So these are the tasks that we've identified as part of the customer journey. Then there are certain tasks for managing business capability. You need to establish an overview, and then there are tasks inside there. Tasks for managing strategy, digital transformation, risk, innovation, business processes, information architecture, and so on and so forth. We basically analyze the journeys and the tasks of our clients when they perform certain architectural tasks. So, and if we go into compliance, there is a similar analysis taking place here for if you're a compliance manager. Yeah, you monitor the status of the management system, you perform document audits, you document compliance, you monitor the user management system, you report to management. And for each of these journeys, there are certain tasks. And these tasks basically needs to be part of the tool, potentially at least. So this is how we design what is required by the next release in QualiWare. Now, if we go back to the presentation here, let's take a look at what this has resulted in for QualiWare 10.10. Now, I know it's going to take us a while to go through all these and discuss them in detail, so I'm not going to do that. But it's just so that you can see. So QualiWare 10.10, it's quite a big release actually. New user interfaces, personalized desktop, the new desktops that are purpose-driven. So there is a purpose for each of the desktops that we have. It's a new user interface that we have adopted. We've had some criticism about the user interface in the previous releases. So in this user interface, we're using technology where we got good feedback. So the good feedback we got on user interface was the diagram dashboards in 10.10x. And we've used the dashboard technology in our desktops now. And then we have created desktops that are more purpose-driven and designed from our customer journeys. We also have other interesting things such as support for AI chatbots. So it's now possible to sit and communicate with the content and the knowledge in your management system or in your architecture repository to get feedback from your AI copilot or whatever you're using. We have designed and released augmented reality. And we do that because we want to make sure that the content in the repository is available to end users when they need it. Now, first of all, the support for chatbot is one aspect of that. You can always talk to the large language model that knows everything about what is in the repository. But the augmented reality app also allows you to point your phone to some machine or some asset out there, and the app will automatically find all the relevant content in the repository for that particular machine you're standing in front of or asset you're standing in front of. So, and then we have also included AI-supported PowerPoint presentation generator. Again, it's a way to get content out of the system fast because you need it for a specific purpose. And then, you know, a part of all of these other things, one thing that is important here is the new user interface in the web modeler. So let's come back to some of these later. What I'm going to do in a short while, I'm going to go over the new desktop design and we'll see how that works. And then we'll talk about and look at the AI usage in QualiWare 10.10. Now there is a presentation you may have seen before, which is the whole foundation for our AI strategy. If this guy over here has knowledge that he wants to share, he will produce for example, a process model of that knowledge and put it into the QualiWare repository. And if she needs this knowledge, there are different devices that she can go through, browsers, phones, watches, you know, whatever type of robots and things like that, and basically get sort of that knowledge into her brain. And if we talk about knowledge management terminology, he's externalizing his knowledge. The representation of knowledge in the QualiWare repository is called explicit knowledge. And what she does when she reads the process models and understand the process model is internalizing that same knowledge. So it has to do with knowledge sharing. This is basically what we do with QualiWare. It doesn't matter what type of modeling technique you're using or what you use the tool for. We're sharing knowledge across the business. That's the core principle and the core purpose of QualiWare. Now, how can we use AI services in this knowledge sharing? We can use it to build a model, for example. We can help him build and design a model, or we can analyze the models, or we can help her to understand the meaning of the models. And we actually have AI service support now for these different areas. We used to have a picture to model feature that we built a long time ago, a long time before the large language model became popular. In fact, Gartner actually has stated that we were out with the AI services long before it became very popular. We also actually built a chatbot that we deployed in Skype. Is that long ago when people were actually using Skype? And well, while the picture to model was okay, the chatbot was just so stupid that we chose not to release it as a product. Now that has changed now, because now the large language models have made this much more available to people in general, and we are now releasing co-pilot interfaces and of course new AI features. So if you are in a process modeling situation and you have a process model called Bookcar and you want to create the underlying workflow diagram, you can invite your colleagues into the room, a planning room, a meeting room, and then you can start putting yellow stickers on the whiteboard. And when the meeting is over, you have a idea for the process, and somebody sits down and draw the model in QualiWare. The alternative approach to this is to take the context of the overarching process, so the Bookcar, and maybe supplement that with prompts, some details, some expected results, send that to an AI service, and you'll get a nice diagram back from that. And this is actually something that is already in 10.10, but it has been approved. And one of the things that Gartner talks about when they say we have an ontological basis for that knowledge sharing is because we protect your business models and your business secrets by allowing you to build an ontology model in order to design what is the context information we'll send to the AI service. So when we have that yellow fish business process, this ontological model decides what can go to that AI service. Well, the process name, the short description, the purpose, the description, the owner, who is responsible and who is involved and things like that, but only if it's a position. Now, if you've made a person responsible, that person name will not be moved over to the AI service, only if it's a position. So everybody knows that there's a project leader somewhere, but nobody knows what it is that he or she is called. So you decide what type of knowledge can we share with the AI service, and that's a sort of a protection mechanism that we've included in the AI integration. And then every service that you design is defined by a knowledge scope. And the knowledge scope basically talks about what is the context. Well, we have the selected object if that's a business process. We have an ontology that controls the sharing. There's a root definition. What is the expected prompts, or what are the prompts that we need in here? There are prompts in the tool that, naming of objects and symbols must be connected and don't be simple. Make it an advanced diagram. What are the rules for workflow diagrams? These are prompts that follows along and controls the use of AI services. And then you can say, what is the expected result? Well, it's a workflow diagram. We want activity, business events, business objects, and workflow conditions should be connected with activity paths. And here's a diagram description of the response. We can even have a response ontology. Now, this knowledge scope can be reused by every person in the company who knows or needs help by an AI service to generate a workflow diagram from an overall business process. This is something that is quite important for us. We want to control the AI usage of knowledge and basically design what the AI agent is doing. Now, the chatbot here is in the same dimension. We have the ontological presentation in the QualiWare repository. Now we prepare that knowledge in an internal process. This is a customizable process, by the way, so you can change that if you have customized your meta model. This is very important for us in general. Now we can send that into a knowledge database, and we have Node.js servers. This is something that sits in the future technology. What we have released right now is through the Azure AI, you can basically communicate with the knowledge in the repository. That Azure AI search creates what is known as a RAG database, which is sort of the structure of knowledge that an AI service uses. You don't have to use Copilot to access that. Microsoft allows other type of AI services to get access to the knowledge prepared in QualiWare and delivered through the Azure APIs. So there's a good chance that you can use whatever AI service that you have. But if you don't, then you can always choose the Copilot. And I'm going to show this a little later. So yeah, the AI search in sort of a more detailed. Now we're down to when I say we're using Archimate to design the overall functionality and structure of our tool. This is what I mean. So the QualiWare product, the QCL engine creates object JSON files that is used for the AI search to create the open Azure AI, and then you have different the Copilot agent to use to access those open AI data. And so if you work through the Microsoft Copilot app, this is the way it works, and we have other ways of working with the same content. So what is also in 10.10 is the ability to use the response ontologies for creation and enrichment of objects and relationships. So not generating a diagram, but updating content in the repository object. For example, you can ask the AI service to create a description of your processes. And whereas when it generates a diagram, you get a new diagram in the web modeler. When it's objects and relationships, you get a spreadsheet that you can modify. So if you're not happy with the answer from the AI service, you can go and edit it before you click save. When you click save, it will create the objects or update the existing objects with the current content. And that is actually quite a nice feature. Another feature that uses AI is the smart importer. If you have CSV files and things, we can use AI to map the content of your CSV files to the templates that you have and to the attributes that you have in the system. And then, of course, there's a lot of new visualizations in 10.10. There is a new visualization, sort of like box in a box type of visualization. This is this is a visualization that shows the delivery of capabilities. Here's passenger handling capabilities delivered by these processes and these application and this particular initiative or project. And depending on what capabilities we're looking at, we can see what part of our architecture or business model delivers these capabilities. So these visualizations are new in 10.10. Also, the ability to design and open up gradually hierarchical visualizations is new, and also the fact that you can see the properties of those visualizations on the right side. We'll get back to this a little later in real life. We also have a new capability to compare different revisions of the same object. Here we have an object in the base configuration. It looks like this. In the development private workspace, it looks like this. We can show, for example, different languages. Here's an object in English. It looks like this. In Danish, the language variant looks like this. We can create a French language variant for this object and start translating the object. So our support for languages has increased dramatically in 10.10. And also looking at the differences between revisions of the same object. So we are basically looking at a property sheet and then different revisions of that same object. And that is something that is in 10.10. Now, there are some meta model extensions that may be interesting for some of you. This is actually something that has been produced in Canada. It's support for the NATO architecture framework, and it's been evaluated by the Canadian Defence just recently to make sure that this is something that can be used by NATO defense organizations and manufacturing organizations delivering to the defense. A new standard coming out of NATO for documenting the enterprise architecture. There is also extensions to the Open API generator. We have built an automatic integration between OpenAI based systems and QualiWare, and we can move data out of an Open API based system and back into the Open API system or another Open API based system. So if a system like ServiceNow or SAP supports the Open API, we can scan that Open API structure. You can generate code by mapping the systems so that the interface basically generates itself. And of course, there is a new part in the collaborative part of 1010. It's the augmented reality app. You can see this is just some screen dumps from that app. Here's a tree in my office. There's a QR code on that tree, and we can identify then what is in the different areas around that tree. There is this marker for gold, which is basically floor in Danish. Sorry about the translation here. But you can also define other points in the same room and put some what do you call that, links under each of these points. So imagine instead of a flower that you have a machine out on your manufacturing plant, and you want to know the part of the management system that is relevant for that machine. So the maintenance process, the documents, instruction videos, and things like that. You can use the AI to basically get that linked, and you can link it to different points on the machine or just have a menu that shows it. Yeah, and of course it's 3D. So if you look at it from another side, you still have the different points directed or placed in a 3D sort of place, and you can say, well, the 3D is great, but I also have a menu that shows the different points in my room here, and you can click that to get the video relevant for that particular machine. Another feature that we introduce is surveys, different type of surveys. It's been requested for a while, and now it's there. And we can come back to that a little later. What are the survey options? There's a governance workflow for surveys. You prepare the survey. So what questions and question groups and valid answers do we put in the survey? Then we design the look and feel, then we simulate to make sure that it works. And then we put it into production and send it out to all the participants, and they'll answer, and we'll reflect on the results and document the results, and then that survey is over. So that's a feature that people have been asking for, and it's of course not a survey that goes out to 40 million Canadians. It goes out to the persons that you've registered in your repository. So you basically say, I want this survey to go out to these people. It could be all of them. It could be just 5. You are in control of that. So yeah. So that's basically what I wanted to show you in PowerPoint. Now let's go into the product. Any questions so far? Feel free to reach out, and I can't see your faces while I'm demoing, so feel free to just shout out if there's something you want to know more about. Yeah, and of course, yeah.
Alternately, you could put something in the chat, and we'll call it out as well. So
yeah,
if you want to communicate that way, we're monitoring the chat, so that's another way to ask a question.
Yeah, that's fine. So Kevin or Ryan or whoever is sponsoring this, just let me know if there's anything that I should drill into.
Yep, I'll certainly let you know if any questions come up.
Great, cool. So what we're looking at here is the user desktop. Now, what is the user desktop for? With the complexity critique that we've had for the user interface, we've decided to basically identify what is the user role when you're not content owner. So what do you need if you're just in quotation, of course, if you're just a normal employee who needs to perform a job, and but you still need to be aware of goals and restrictions and risks and processes in your quality management system, for example. So this is your desktop, and it's the only thing you can see when you log in. You have your to-do list, your responsibilities. If you're not aware of that, you can click here and you can get a list of your responsibilities, and then you can say, okay, that's great, I have these responsibilities. Some of them may be in registration phase or have some sort of governance state attached to them. So if there is a change request, for example, it would be interesting to know, did we approve or not approve of this change request? Actually, it's just been registered. So you probably need to do something with this change request, actually. So these are, feedback to you as an individual. You may have something that you subscribe to in the tool. So if something happens, if a new revision is created of one of these things that you subscribe to, then you'll get notified automatically. You can provide some feedback. You can create some change requests and things like that. And if you're really happy with providing feedback, then you may also need that list of feedback that you have created, so you know what you've said to other people. Here's we need to document the fan better. Well, okay, that's something I wrote, and it's going out to somebody who is responsible for that. Compliance
We got
and
one
risk.
question here,
Sure,
Kuno.
go on.
It's by Gerald.
Mhm.
He says, "Is the end goal to be able to do everything that one would do via keyboard input through ChatGPT type of interactions or via agentic AI?"
So is everything, so get me that question again, please.
Is the end goal to be able to do everything that one would do via keyboard input through ChatGPT type of interactions or via agentic AI?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is not just that. To create content, every type of content in the repository, that is available in 1010. Basically, you can create diagram, you can create objects, you can create relationships. It can be graphical, it can be textual. So that is actually already available. But we are looking into agentic AI to be more customizable. Actually, I showed you the knowledge scope, which is a way to sort of configure a specific service from the AI service. So that is a way that in QualiWare we are pretty happy with the ability of customizing and designing, configuring the services that we use in AI and other places. So we are very much focused on how can we control the features offered by AI, by large language models or other agents in the AI. So if you want to use the let me just pick some. The Copilot has an agent, or Microsoft has an agent that will read your plan of actions and your calendar to see when are you available for something. Now, if you want to do business transformation planning in QualiWare, it may be interesting for you to access the AI agent from Microsoft that can give you information about, are these people that I want to allocate to this project really available on that week. So this is the type of things that we see in the future that would be interesting to configure. Right now we can configure the response ontology and the creation of content, and we can also configure the sharing of knowledge that we offer to the AI service, and we'll get back to that in a short while. I'll show you what we can do with that. But let me complete this demo, and we'll talk more about the AI later. So this is the end user view. Now, the end user view, my view, is really personalized. Of course, you can see here is the user desktop, the standard user desktop, but I can change my own desktop. So if this is my top process, that's great. I can drill into that top process. So go to look at that. Whoops, I want to do the simple user interface here. Here's my top process. I can link my processes. I can see what sits behind it. What's the description? What is the properties of that process? I can drill into lower level diagrams, and then I can say, whoa, hang on. This is actually interesting. This is something I do every day. I should pin this process to my desktop. So if I click that, go back to my user desktop, now I have this perform overhaul on my desktop. I can say, well, it's a little bit far away. Let's change this a little bit. Let's move things around, and maybe we should do this a little different as well. And now I can save my personal desktop. So now it's saved. I can design any diagram in the repository to pop up on my desktop. I can pin it to my desktop, so I have access to exactly what I feel I need in the quality system or in the enterprise architecture system. And this is a new feature that makes it easy for everybody to make sure they get the right knowledge out of the tool and present it in a way so that they can understand it. Of course, they can also remove stuff. I mean, well, I don't need those social behavior warehouse stuff. Let's remove that. And basically, you can design your own user interface. You can always go back and see what's the standard. This is the standard. But if I don't do anything and just hit F5, next time I come in, I will see my personal. And if I don't like that, I can remove my personal. Now it's gone, okay? And it's only me who have that personal desktop. So everybody who has access to the system will have their personal setup of the system attached to their personal profile. Was there a question?
Yeah, Kuno, it's Mike Hart from the group at CloseReach. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I just have a question. If you can bring that desktop back up again. So you can put things on, you can pin them and stuff like that. Once you have them up, can you move the different tiles around them?
Yeah, you can move them around. So like I said before, when you enable, you move all the things around. You can add them, you can move them, you can even take, as you can see here, the managed business processes. That's a tile that originally belongs on another desktop. So you can even move functionality. These tiles can be moved from one desktop to your user desktop as well. If you actually do some work on some processes, then you may want to have those simple features for creating processes, editing processes available to you on your desktop. You can, of course, also activate the business process management desktop where you have everything that has to do with process modeling. But you may just want to have simple features here. So yes, this desktop can be designed by you, basically.
So if you have some different desktop views, you can move a tile from one desktop view to another.
Yes, exactly. You can do that. You can create new desktops, by the way, as well. Of course, all this you see here is configurable. And of course, if you're the architect and the product owner, then it's more configurable than it would be by the simple user here. Here it's about basically including content or features on your own desktop. That is what we're showing here. But you can basically configure everything if you have access to the configuration layer. But not everybody would have that, of course. So configuring, of course, there's a configuration out of the box, but then you can configure it as well if you want to. Now let's take a look at the next type of user. This is the user of information, basically. The girl maybe, or the woman from my slides before. But we have a series of desktops now, and if you think about the journeys we saw before, those desktops are designed to match those journeys. So we have a lot of desktops, and nobody will use all the desktops, but you will use some of the desktops. So if you have the need for, if you're a process owner and you work with process management, you may activate the process management desktop. Now you still have a user desktop, of course, but you say I have my user desktop, and then I'm also part of the process management team. I have a process that I'm responsible for. This is how I would work with processes. And this is where it gets a little bit more technical. But what I hope that you will see eventually is that there is a specific structure for many of these many of these desktops, especially the desktops that have a business aspect to them. And the business aspect here is the process modeling. So we have a process root object on the left top, and then there is a tile here called Getting Started, where you can import. We saw that smart importer before. So if you have nothing in the repository, but you have something in Excel, you can import it directly here and say, here's a list of processes. We want them in the repository. Just import it, and the AI will help you doing that. You can also create a new process. You can edit some of the existing processes, or you can view or open some of the existing processes. So if I create a new process, it basically asks me, well, these are the diagram types that you can use for process modeling in our business. Now, you can select all of them that comes out of the box, of course. But if you install this with a client and you go out as a consultant to a client, you may want to reduce the options here to only include what this particular company use for building process models. If you're not using all these diagram types, or if you're using some other diagram types, they should be the ones that you decide through this. But I can say, I want to build a business process network, a new one, and I can say, okay, let's call that test 45. I think that's a good name for it. And it will open a new diagram, and now I'm in the web modeler. And as you can see, this is the new web modeler. There's a new design, a new layout for this. The symbols are on the left side. When I open or put a process out here, over here, I will have properties for this process. And I can say, okay, I want to either edit the dialog for the process, or I can actually start working with processes here. By opening up for inline editing, I can say, who's the owner here? Well, I can go and find the owner. Abe Vernon Osamoda. Here's Abe. He's responsible for. Oh, he's the owner of this process. I can, work my way all through the properties of the process, and basically save that. And this way, very easily build my process model, just like we've always done. I hope you've seen this before. So yeah, I want to have an information system here as well. It's easy to design, and okay, if I want to reuse one of the existing systems, the airline applications, now I have reused that particular system. So we've done a lot with the web modeler, and the idea that you can see the properties of that system over here when you select it, that's quite important. Now, there are two different ways to do this. The favorites represent the selected attributes for a process or system or whatever that you have decided to use in the organization. But you can also say, I want to see the full information capability for an information system. So this is basically the same as the dialogues. This is the front page, the name, the short description, short name breaks down to a number of users, responsibility, capability, information, what functionality it provides, all these things. And of course, you can collapse these. Basically, you have all the sub dialogues for an information system available here. That is the full list, and you can say, well, that's good, but I only want to see the properties with value. Okay, that reduces, of course, a little bit the content here. So you can choose the full list, everything, the full list with values, or the favorites when you look at the content. Now, this is configurable. So if you have a special standard in your business for documenting processes, information, organization, applications, whatever, those standards will be your favorites. Of course, you have to put that into the system. And since we already have a standard, you can also just use that. But it has become much more easy to just open the, I'll discard this, just open the Getting Started tile on the desktop. Remember where we started with this? Getting started, import, create. I can edit. If I edit a process, I can select anything here. And if I click, then I will go into the web modeler for that particular for that particular process. Just edit that. I can also find it. Just open it. So if I open a business process diagram called Clean the Runway, for example, what does it mean? Well, it means that it will open up not in the web modeler, but in the dashboard. So I can just investigate what happens here on this particular diagram. Right? So there is a difference between editing and visualizing. Now, what is the approach to business process management here? Well, we have a center of excellence where you can link to the approach, but you can also link to Roger's website and basically go and get a open that up and take one of his courses. If you have your own website or own content that you want to link to from this, you should do that. This is your chance to educate and sort of direct your process modelers to use the same approach and maintain the same quality and completeness of processes across your business. So we're talking about business models here, business architecture. You're building, and you're not doing that alone. There may be 50 different process owners. It would be really great if they use the same approach to process modeling. And this is a way to make sure that they have access to the principles and standards and guidelines that you've defined for process modeling. So that's the Getting Started tile. Now, the other tiles here reflects the journeys and the top tasks you saw before. Establish an overview of the current situation. We need to know about the process and ownership, the business process networks, the workflow diagrams, business process diagram, decision models, responsibility, accountability, and so on and so forth. What are the process events, the process roles, the process strategy. So basically, we get a list of all the business process networks. Yeah, that's not the only thing you do, because you can do that in the repository as well. But you also get a list of the capabilities that the process delivers and the risk that the process are under, and the IT support for the process. Now, there may be other views on the process. You can see here we are actually walking into another dimension of the process modeling, something that belongs in another desktop. But to get an overview of your business process, you also need to get the overview of the context. So when you look at all these, and I'm not going to go through this, a lot of analysis and reports and things that you can work with here. You can filter, you can visualize, you can do all sorts of things with these things. What we are doing here is We are offering access to content that will make it possible for you to establish an overview of the current situation, processes and ownership, logistics, the value chains, manufacturing routing networks, more sort of intense processes. And then you can say, oh, by the way, I need to provide some feedback. I want to register a change request, or I have a good idea. It's also part of this establish the overview. When we move to the next tile, it is basically the next sort of going down the journey we saw before. We need to evaluate the business processes. Now we know the business processes. We know where they are and what they connect to, but how is it working? Are there any risks and compliance and performance issues with these processes? Are they complete? What is the key performance indicator for the processes saying? Are we done with the digital aspects of the processes? There may be sensitive data legislation coming out that we want to work with. We want maybe to know a little bit more about the processes and application and what functionality the processes are using in these applications. So evaluation of the processes, is it okay what we have? And if it's not, then we will design and plan some changes, some initiatives or projects that changes the processes and maybe edit some of the process definitions that we have already. The desktops that we are looking at will have the same structure, not the same content, of course, across the top bar. On the left bottom part, we have the hierarchy. And this is the process hierarchy that can open up. You basically can open up the entire process hierarchy, and you can go to whatever diagram in the hierarchy that you want. This structure is represented by a folder in the repository. And if you want to add new root objects to this folder, there's a button here where you can say, oh, these are the ones that is in my root already, but I want to add a lifecycle assessment diagram, de-icing the aircraft, and then you select, okay, I won't do that because it will start an analysis of the sub-hierarchy and it'll take a little while. But what happens then is that you get another root here. So if you're the process owner in here, you may want to identify what are the roots and the hierarchy below the roots for this process. That is typically available on all desktops as well. And then there's this plus sign. The plus sign gives you an entry into the repository explorer. But when you do that from the process management desktop, you only get the process modeling diagrams, not the entire repository explorer with several hundred diagram types and templates in there. So here are the diagram types that is used for process modeling, and there are the other one where all templates, both the process models and maybe also applications and something else that would be interesting to work with from a process modeling view. Again, this is configurable. What you should do as a consultant going out to your customers is to make sure that they should be aware of all the options, of course, but nobody will use all the different type of process models available in the market today. That would be just too complicated. So that can be customized, of course. The last part of the process desktop that is generic is this news tile. This is a new feature that allows us to document and broadcast changes in the process area. You basically create news. There's a dialog that will pop up, give it a name, short description, the release date for this news, and the archive date when is it taken down. And that means that all process owners can communicate changes in the process areas through this feed that they have here. Basically, process owners communicating, I'm doing this to my process, we may want to do blah, 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 and just a way to communicate these internally amongst process owners. And then on this last part, it's pretty much flexible as to what do you want to see here. Now, this is where you would want to maybe use some statistics or charts or reports, and I'll show you samples of this on some of the other diagram types. So that was the process management desktop. Now another desktop that has been introduced here, and I know this is a little controversial because why would you want to use documents when you have an EA tool that basically allows for other approaches? Well, that is because documents are actually an important part of everything we do. So what we've done here is now we have a document management desktop that basically talks about the documents that are controlled and linked by something in the repository. So there may be documents that are changed recently. There may be documents and folders and categories that we can fold out here. You can create document, you can edit document, you can manage document, you can do quick search. There is a new set of reports here, so we can see here the documents that are approved. There is one that is ready for approval, one that is approved, and 26 that are not approved. Now, what we've changed in 10.10 is we've made these charts drillable, if you wish. So if I click what is under development, this will change and only show me the data that belongs to this pie chart or this pie. What is ready for approval, what is under development, and here are all of them at the same thing. Also down here, attention required. This is something that you could say, we could have this on all the desktops. There's always attention required for processes or documents or applications, something running out of validity or whatever. Yes, exactly. You could have that. And maybe that is something that you would put in your desktops. You could also say, okay, what documents have actually been visited? So the statistic, which document are we using most? Well, the QualiWare letterhead. That makes sense. Every time you write a new document, you download the QualiWare letterhead. But that's just a new desktop that is available here. Another desktop, and I know it's getting a little late here. Another desktop that would typically be interesting for people to work with would be maybe the application management desktop. The application management desktop is structured the same way as the process desktop. So a root diagram, getting started, and then a series of tiles that represents the journey. Establish an overview where you basically work with your applications and capabilities and stuff. Evaluate the application portfolio, prioritize change, allocate resources, and budget. And down here, another thing to look for as a chart here, you have the application action plans. So what action plans have we defined for the different applications? So the mobile passenger platform, well, I can open that up. Here's the cloud deployment. It's a very short little thing here. The customer data access, it consists of 3 projects. Now you can see that the Gantt line for the application component, this is an Archimate application component. It will start with the start of the earliest project, Rollout Eurozone, started in 2014, and it will end with the end date for the latest project E here. So you can see we're going to manipulate and modify the projects for this entire period of time for this particular application component. And this is something that is interesting when we talk about not just registering your applications and making sure you have that under control, but also what are the changes that we want to make for these applications. And if we drill into the desktop and the dashboards for applications, again, there are new features in here. Now I'm in the improving and analyzing part. So this is where I would want to change and work with my application. Again, we have the information here, and of course you can change. Like if you say I want to edit the applications. Let me see what happened here. So I'm editing the application. I can edit the responsibility. I can edit some other fields here. It's pretty much the same as you saw in the web modeler before. There may be some generic links that I can open up. If I select something, I'll see different stuff here. So, so basically, the ability to work with your model, inspect your model, run the visualizations, and even the highlights. So, for example, if you're a Gartner subscriber, you would want to see the time highlights. So, tolerate, invest, migrate, or eliminate. Or you may want to see the life cycle state of your application. What is in implementation? What is in production? What is frozen? What is phased out, etc. So these type of analysis and highlights are in this dashboard. Another thing that we have introduced in the dashboard is the compliance and governance. So I can bring up a list of the governance history. So how many revisions do we have, and when was it approved, and who acknowledged the changes, or the social behavior warehouse stuff. I may have some improvement schedules, some costs, maybe even some life cycle analysis of my diagram, basically. So now we are down to the application owner, an application landscape owner, the dashboard level focus on one diagram, the desktop level focus on everything. In here, you have basically all the diagrams. If you say visualize, you can visualize all the diagrams from here. So does that make sense that there's this difference?
Bruno,
Yeah.
will you take the question? Or
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That application model that you had before.
Yeah.
You talked about the life cycle of the application itself. I'm assuming that's a software application.
Yeah.
Can it be used for the life cycle of a group of equipment?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And we actually have introduced a new desktop in this release that we call asset management. So on the asset management, we have, again, you can see it's pretty much the same start, of course, but we have assets of different types. So we have strategic assets, could be projects or investment portfolios. We have products that we regard as assets that we can do something for. We have manufacturing, so production side, the manufacturing plant and the routing network. We may have IT infrastructures as assets, applications. And then we have introduced in 1010 something that is called technical debt, where you can basically design your technical debt that you can link to different areas, and you can work with your technical debt strategy. There are organizations such as Gartner, for example, that will offer you a list of new technologies every year if you subscribe to that. And you can say, okay, we may want to have a strategy for when we adopt or implement or throw out certain technologies. So this will basically get you into a strategy model for the technical adoption strategy, or technology adoption strategy. Something that it has become a little bit more popular to talk about, and now we've introduced this, and of course it's in the assets, but it's also in the application actually. So because a lot of the technical depth that we talk about with clients actually have something to do with the application technology. So yeah, I hope that was an answer to your question. We basically have offered or are now offering a specific asset management desktop where you can work with all your assets. One of the things actually, by the way, that you do here is also you configure the augmented reality app that we saw before, the QualiWare Go. So basically you can say, I want to edit the asset object list here that will be showing up. See here, this point 1 on the machine. I want to see this diagram. When I click on that one point, and here's another point. These are the 3D points that has been registered in the mobile app. And it has to do with what do I want to see when I'm looking at a specific point. And that may be a document or a process or a video or whatever you want to make sure that your workforce working out there in the machine hall, when they look at something in their app, then you know exactly what they need, or at least you have a good feeling about the sort of 5 to 10 different things that they would need from the management system, and they can make that available in the web directly. So that is configured from here. So as part of the asset management is to make sure that the quality system linked to that asset is made available. So just like you have process owners, you will now also have asset owners, and where the process owners make sure that everybody knows the process, the asset owners make sure that everybody that works with this asset has access to important knowledge in their quality system. Yeah, so there's an asset management desktop, and there's a lot of other desktops. You may notice here that every time I open a desktop, it pops up here. I can say, no, let's remove that again. Next time I open my repository, it will show me the same desktop in the same order. So it saves on my profile. It saves the desktops that I have chosen to open and that I have chosen to work with. And if I close some of them down, that's fine. It will not be there the next time. And we've done this again to make sure that people are not trying to look at the entire system at the same time. We have a lot of different desktops that represents purposeful access to content in the repository, but not everybody needs everything. In fact, if you want to see the entire list of desktop, there's a button here. There's a user desktop. The business aspect desktop includes an innovation desktop, strategy, capability management, business transformation. Some of them we've seen: information, interoperability, composable business, organization, manufacturing, technology management, and asset management. These are the business aspect desktop that we have chosen to introduce in the 1010. Now there are other types of desktops. Here's the architecture framework desktop. So if you are a user of Roger Burleson's business architecture management, there is a business architecture desktop that implements his business and links into his website. And you can click here and get access to content below those tiles here. You can define actually how would you use AI, define your knowledge scopes and your knowledge prompts, all the stuff we talked about before. If you feel that there are certain knowledge scopes that needs to be created when you use different type of models according to Roger Burleson, then you can define the AI. You can configure your AI services as the responsible for the architecture framework. And this is a little bit different from being responsible for an application. Now you are the modeling knowledge expert, the architectural structure expert, and you need to be aware of what is it that is used in AI when people are modeling everything, basically. You need to have a modeling awareness and an architecture awareness capability, and you need to be able to configure. I mean, of course, there's out-of-the-box configurations of the AI, so you're not on your own. But you can, in fact, if you have decided to use a specific methodology and implemented some modeling rules, then you can use and configure the AI to comply with those rules and actually enforce those rules when content is created or interpreted by the AI. Wonderful. Also, another thing which has become increasingly more important is the idea of having architecture principles. Now you can say, what is this? Well, you know what? When you build enterprise architecture, nowadays you basically need to do a little bit of work in order to make sure that the content being built support or comply with different principles. There may be principles for applications, for example, compliance or interoperability or performance, portability. These are application principles that you must comply with when you build an application. Then there are business principles. We need to build agile business. We need collaboration, compliance, cost efficiency. These are business principles. There's data principles. One of the most important stuff right now is the resilience principles. So how can we prevent something bad from happening? Well, we have resilience principles embedded in everything we design in the business. Security principle, technology principle, user experience principles. You can invent your own principles. This is just the out of the box, of course. But this means that as an architect, you're not creating a new ISO standard or new government-supported legislation. This is your principles for building models of any type in the business. What is it that the model owners and the designers and the architects need to comply with in terms of principles that you have defined for the architecture? This is something that sits on all the architecture desktop, not just the Roger Bolton desktop, but also on the Archimate desktop, the TOGAF, the SACMAN, the QualiWare, all the different frameworks that is available in the tool set. And then we have the EDGI, Enterprise Design. That's a methodology we support, does the same thing. And then we have the governance, risk, and compliance. And this is where I want to sort of end my presentation here. Let's take a look at a special compliance desktop. For example, let's look at sustainability. Something new and interesting coming out of the EU. They are very good at creating very complicated legislation that European businesses need to comply with. It's also a little bit of a criticism, but on the other hand, as a sort of a person living in Europe, it would be great if we could make sure that we don't destroy the world with CO2 emissions everywhere. So let's see if we can support some of these standards. At least we have chosen to build a desktop for the sustainability legislation. We have chosen to build a desktop for the DORA legislation, for the GDPR legislation, for the different type of rules that exist in society. Of course, you can also have a desktop for ISO 27001 or SAPSA or whatever. So that is something that you decide on your own. But here's the compliance for sustainability. Again, you can see that there are similarities. Get started with this, establish an overview, sustainable development goals from EU, perform and document audits, something you need to do when you're in compliance, and document the compliance, basically. And then there's sustainability structures. What do you want to know about all this? I can open up the regulation diagram, and that opens up a lot of different type of analysis and highlights and things. So, for example, do we need relevant and complying objects? If I look at all these regulations, what is relevant for this business? And of course, that's something that we have made an analysis for and we've highlighted somewhere. And when I do that, I can see, oh, these are relevant, but we have no objects here. And then there are some of them that are not relevant. I could also say, what is the audit scope? Do we have audits scheduled for whatever is relevant? So audit plans, no audit plans. We have no audit plans for this now. Of course, this is the highlight, but it supports the work that you do as a compliance manager for this particular legislation. And then you can say, okay, so what else do we offer in compliance? Well, there's a generic compliance desktop that has to do with more generic approaches to compliance. So we manage audit. There's no top diagram here, by the way. That's a little different, but the rest is pretty much the same thing. We manage audits, audit programs, change requests, non-conformances, the compliance matrices for regulations, of course, but also for requirements. For example, SAPSA is a requirement. It's not a regulation. The GDPR for legislation for personal sensitive data and how it's used, incident management, and business continuity management. Business continuity management is becoming more and more important. Sadly to say that, of course, but whatever happens, you need to be able to continuously run the business or plan for that. So there's a business impact analysis. So basically it talks about what can go wrong And if something goes wrong, then that's one thing. But how can we prevent things from going wrong? The resilience planning. And if it does go wrong, how can we recover from it? And again, these tiles and these options in there, if you're in compliance, these options and tiles should be logical to you. It should be your top tasks basically for your compliance work. And that's why they're created like this.
Wonderful. Sorry to cut you off here, Kuno. We got
Sure.
about 7 minutes left, and I got 2 questions here I want to get
Yeah.
answered. We got one question here from James. He says, besides the new features in relation to the underlying software itself, what type of performance improvements will be implemented for this new version? Also, are there any changes to the minimum requirements?
There are no changes to the minimum requirements. Performance improvements has to do with the way that we've organized stuff and the way that we look at the different visualizations. Visualizations are quite sort of heavy. And also these hierarchies where you basically open up a lot of substructures, the calculation of those hierarchies are a little heavy. So this is something that you would not do every day, but whatever is up here should be really well performing. We have not seen any problems there. Yeah, some of the charting mechanisms could be a little bit more sort of slow, if you wish, and also some of the calculations. Like if I go to the business transformation desktop, so what are we working with? Projects in the entire company. There's this hierarchy, transformation hierarchy. If I click this, it will analyze my entire portfolio of projects and show them. And you can say, well, I want to expand this to 7 levels, if there are 7 levels, and we'll go and calculate that expansion, and it will open up all the different initiatives and projects and sub-projects that I have planned for in my business. So that may be something, especially you have like 200 projects, that may be something that takes a while. Just when we're here in the visualization anyway, when you select a project in this case, you'll see the same type of properties as you saw on the web modeler and in the dashboard. And again, here you can actually edit the content in the visualizer, which is a little strange maybe, because is that visualization? Yeah, well, if you find something in your visualization that is not as it should be, then it's nice to be able to just edit it from here and then move on. So we've expanded the functionality of the visualization quite dramatically. But when we talk about performance issues, some of these analyses are really deep analysis that can take a while, and that's just the way it is right now.
Wonderful. We got I'll come to you, Krill, after the question from Terry here. Terry said, is there an Archimate desktop in the existing version, or was this introduced in QualiWare 10.10?
This is introduced in QualiWare 10.10. We support the Archimate, of course. We've done that for a long time, but in 10.10 we have basically created an Archimate desktop, and the Archimate desktop includes all the different elements and viewpoints that we support out of the box, and these are not just dumb symbols. If you click the business actor symbol, you will actually get a list of the business actors that you have in your repository. So all these are active objects basically. And if you click the business viewpoints, you'll see all the business viewpoints. So business process network, Archimate, active cooperation viewpoint, Archimate business function viewpoint. So we basically work with the Archimate desktop just like any other framework, architecture framework. It's just a little bit more intense because the Archimate framework is a little bit more overarching and has some details that we wanted to support. But again, here you can define the AI use when you work with the Archimate. It's a different type of modeling notation. Of course, we have inherited all the properties. All these objects have properties in QualiWare. They're not just empty symbols, but we also realize that graphical relationships are more important in Archimate. So you may want to change your use of AI to support Archimate a little better. Now you saw we are using Archimate as well internally. So we know where it's good and where it's bad, and I can tell you, you don't want to do data models in Archimate when you have class diagrams. They're so much better. So when you're working with Archimate, one of the big decisions you have to make is, first of all, what viewpoints do you use? There's a lot of them, and you can create new. Don't make too many viewpoints. Make them purpose-driven. Make sure that you use the properties in QualiWare so that everybody has the same properties for the same type of objects, instead of them inventing their own properties in Archie or whatever they would do. So, and the last thing is make sure that you keep Archimate usage to where it's actually an advantage. And data modeling and low-level process management may not be what it's designed for, or it is not what it's designed for. I was one of the designers, so I know that. There's new Archimate coming out in this fall, and we have chosen to reduce the constructs in Archimate 4, as it's going to be called, to sort of remove some of the sort of repeated type of objects. This is something that customers have asked the open group to do. So there will be changes to Archimate, but the 3.2 that is out now is fully supported in this release, and also in 10.9 that we have out now. Yeah, I hope that was the answer you were looking for.
Presentation, Kuno. Thank you. I'm going to jump in with my question. Hopefully it's okay. What's the release date for 10.10?
Yeah, as you can see, it's getting close here. We have all that stuff up and running. There's one thing that I haven't showed you that is going to be the highlight of the presentation, but I think it's getting close now. You can see it's working. We have frozen the functionality. So it's in test right now. Jacob would know that, but I would say a couple of weeks or something like that would be a realistic release date. We already have now customers who've asked, can we get access to this? Can we try it out? And we've had customers providing some feedback that has also resulted in some changes. But we have a lot of advanced functionality that we already have shown to customers. The integration functionality I talked about, and the interoperability, something that is really advanced and important. You can basically take the open API structure and integrate any type of system with QualiWare. Now, the last thing I wanted to do here, I want to share my screen again, was to show you how does this really work when we work with AI. And there is this Quali AI and Quali Chat up here. So when I click the Quali Chat, I can chat with QualiWare, and you can see here there are two different type of responses. If it's marked blue, it's directly pulled out of the repository, and if it's marked with red, it also includes general knowledge. So if I say, who is responsible for Bookcar, what it will do now, it will go into the repository. It will find Bookcar, and it has here two different links. Now, if I click this link, of course, it will open that diagram, right? And it will do that in a new tab, so I can continue my chat. This is the way that it uses the built-in chat. Now, there's another thing I can do. I can open my Teams chat. And can I do that here? Yeah, that's always the problem when I'm presenting. I cannot discuss with my. Can I open my chat here? Can I discuss? Anyway, in my Teams, I have a person basically that is the AI chatbot, so I can communicate with QualiWare content via that. Record interest. Does anybody know enough about Teams to see if I can contact somebody else here? Yeah, sorry about that. If I stop sharing and log off, then I can get into the chat.
But essentially what it does, Kuno, it gives you one of the channels in Teams chat is going to be QualiChat, right? A QualiWare chat, where you'll be able to search the information and talk to this QualiWare chat as a person, and he'll pull the information from QualiWare repository.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes sense.
So next week will be our next meeting will be May 26th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. We'll be talking about our findings from the 10.10 release testing. We'll also, in addition, Brenda Cowie will be talking about EA trends and use cases. And please submit any questions or topics ahead of time that you have for any future meetings. Thank you very much, and you can contact us here.